Hello, this is Dr. Jason Munsell. It is, It is July 26th, 2016. You all are awesome. Hi. I know we only got 2 weeks of class left, and I don't know how many of you are still out there paying attention. I've enjoyed all the stuff that I've seen. When I have time, I look at the threads, obviously, and I'm loving the topic so far for the last paper. And on occasions, as much as possible, I look at Twitter and your blogs and everything like that, and I think everything's looking really, really good for the most part. Some of you just need to do a little bit more stuff, but and I know some of you sort of worked ahead because you had vacation plans or something like that, and that's super cool. The only problem with that is that obviously I don't have all these lectures set beforehand, so I would sort of like to do it more timely, so I can talk about things that are going on, and so it's not like some sort of set thing that was done years ago, like sometimes you get with online classes. It's not live, but it's close. For those folks who are working ahead, you just won't get those lectures until, So 2 more weeks, and then of course I will need some of the stuff a little bit early for those of you who are graduating. As I mentioned, I need to go back and look at the schedule. You probably know. But in any case, I do hope that you're still engaged in this class. I know it's been a long haul, but I have noticed that the number of downloads for the PowerPoints are sort of dwindling. I need to go back and look at the number of views on the lectures. But this is one of the things with online stuff, because I'm not doing tests and stuff like that, and I can't tell really if you're watching this stuff or not. And it's up to you, right? It's your education. You're paying for it. So you get into life what you put into it. You get out of life what you put in. Yeah. Okay. Is that what you think, Finnegan? He goes, yeah. He goes, yeah. That's what I think. Hey, Finn. What do you think about motivational appeals? Go. Yeah. He's motivated. Tomorrow's my birthday. I'm going to be 45 years old. I feel it. In any case, hope you've been watching the convention stuff. I try to watch some of it. I have the night classes with my LA 2211 class, so I don't get to see some of it, and then some of it's so late, and I'm old, and I need to go to bed. But in any case, okay, so I'm going to talk as briefly as I possibly can about the chapter on motivational appeals, which is chapter 11. And I have put a new PowerPoint up, and so you can download that if you so desire, or if you don't care about your education, if you hate America, you don't have to. So are you motivated? Okay, maybe. I don't know. Let's get motivated. Let's get fired up. Fired up. Fired up. Yeah. You fired up, Finnegan? Yeah. Okay. Are you motivated? Okay. The basics. So generally, obviously, and by the way, as always, look at the preface of every, or the learning objectives of every chapter. After reading this chapter, you should understand the role of motivational appeals and persuasion, identify particular emotions and how persuaders use them, describe Maslow's hierarchy of needs and how to apply them, define values and why persuaders use values to persuade audience members. Yeah, okay. But basically, this is all about, motivational appeals are all about emotion. And so it starts, blah, 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 the top of page 299. Aristotle called this type of persuasive strategy pathos, which is sort of the next thing. The type of proof in which the audience is led to feel emotion by the speech. So putting the audience in a certain type of emotional frame, whether it be an advertisement or a speech or whatever. Any sort of persuasive message. Aristotle said audiences do not make the same judgments about the idea when they feel happy as when they feel sad. Thus, the persuader can influence an audience attitude toward a topic by calling upon audience members' emotional state. The study of emotion today includes a variety of feelings-based or affective concepts, including psychological needs and values, as well as emotion. Researchers call these concepts motivational appeals. Okay, so again, pathos has always been about trying to put the audience in a certain emotional frame of mind, making your audience or trying to help your audience feel. And so there's a lot of stuff in there about the power of motivational appeals, and just so you know, they are amazingly powerful. Obviously, you always need a balance as an ethical persuader. Always need a balance, emotional appeals with reason and logic. But motivational appeals, as they say on the page or top of page 300, motivate us. Sometimes we're not going to be motivated by basic logic or statistics or just credibility. We got to feel something. And also, it helps us make moral decisions, because in a sense, morality is an emotional sort of whatever. So, if you're wanting to get the attention of folks, and in the media age, emotion. I'll let you read more about that, but emotion is important. But what is an emotion? That's on page 301. Emotions are belief systems or schemas that guide how we understand our feelings and how we organize our responses to those feelings. Gotcha. Michael Hyde puts it another way. Before we are aware of an emotion, we must be conscious of that emotion, and thus consciousness emerges through our interaction with the world. Basically, and there are some, I'm not a psychologist, and I'm not a psychiatrist, and I'm not whatever. A lot of folks are talking about how in this particular chapter, emotions are not some sort of innate, we have innate things going on. We have fight or flight, anxiety, we have all sorts of different things going on. But in this case, what they're talking about is that emotions, the first big point they're trying to make is that emotions are learned. Love and fear are emotions that we learn about. Averill argues that we also learn to respond to emotions based on our interactions with other people. So we learn about, what is fear, what is love, what is, if love is, what is happiness. And it sets, the second big point is it sets us to behave in particular ways. But we learn those behaviors as well. And sometimes the next big point here is that emotions are situational. This is the social roles stuff. A role, he explains, is a socially prescribed set of response followed by an individual in a given situation. We constantly interpret our situation and choose from among the emotions we have learned to enact. At a funeral, we play the role of a grieving person. At a wedding, we enact those behaviors associated with happiness. So we learn this stuff. And then the next main part of this emotional, just sort of defining what it is that it obviously rests along a continuum. There's really, really high fear, there's really, really low fear, with them. And here it depends, this is sort of moving into the next little bullet point, but it moves into this idea of proximity. And it says that Smith and Hyde are talking about this idea of intensity is related to proximity of the emotions referent, but Aristotle talked about this as well. And I've talked about this in my Calm 100 class. This actually was one of the big theories Aristotle offered about emotions. And that is, people feel more intense emotions when they're both temporally, that is through time, and spatially close to that emotional referent. So I tend to use the example of 9/11. When was that fear or that whatever feeling that people might have had, when was it most intense? One could argue at that time in that place. It's sort of the thing, time heals all wounds, though it really doesn't. But the further away spatially and temporally, the less intense the emotions. And so part of what you're trying to do here, and this is where I'm moving way ahead here, but I think perhaps I'm all choked up, I'm emotionally distraught about emotion. Eat like you mean it. I'll be 45 tomorrow. Gee. 30 years ago, this summer of 18, I feel that old, of 1986, I started running. So I've been running for about 30 years. And to make the high school cross country team, which I did make the high school cross country team, and I ran for a year. I wasn't very good. I wasn't very fast. I ran JV, and then I got that credit out of the way and decided I just wanted to play tennis, which I played tennis until my senior year, and then I quit tennis because I wanted to focus on my academics and take some college classes. We didn't have AP stuff. We were a small town, so I took some college classes when I was a senior in the late 80s. But I remember my high school counselor, he was also the tennis coach, small town Oklahoma. He said, if you quit tennis now, Jason, you're going to be a quitter for the rest of your life. Thanks, coach. I don't know. Stories. Yeah, that's where I was getting. So the whole thing on narrative is very, very, very important. Narrative form. Verbal communication using narrative is effective in influencing an audience motivation to identify with the persuader. Narrative evokes images of time and place and encourages audience members to feel emotions associated with the story. That's what Aristotle talked about, and that is tell stories. Take people to certain times and places through your words to help them feel whatever it is that you want to feel. Emotion, emotion, narrative, narrative, emotion, emotion, narrative, narrative, story, story, story. That's very, very important. So that's proximity. And then this larger idea of also, well, there's a few other things. There are cultural differences. Obviously, we learn, again, those different syndromes. I'll let you read about syndromes. What emotions look like. So what fear might look like or whatever. I mean, obviously there's some universal things, I think, because of our humanity. But a lot of these things are cultural. It talks about how each person expresses emotion a bit differently. And then, of course, we learn about our self-esteem. It talks about how media perpetuates certain perspectives. That ethical insight, I think, is really, really good. I mean, so emotion is important. Yeah, proximity. Motivational appeals, the next little bullet point. So, in a sense, there's, well, that's sort of moving into the whole idea of all the different specific emotional appeals and specific emotions. And that's really what I want to talk about next. This is so well organized. Table 11.1, that's a table, is very, very important. Learn that table, know that table, love that table. Aristotle's emotional appeal has anger, calmness, fear, shame, pity, envy. It talks about the definition of each, and then it gives an example. Appeal. We cannot let terrorists inflict their will upon innocent victims around the world. That makes me angry. Ugh. So take a look at those. And here's the thing, as persuaders, I'm sort of jumping ahead again. You know, what we're trying to do, again, is think, what if I want to convince somebody to do something, is there a particular emotion that perhaps is fitting for, that will help them lead to that particular decision? If I make you angry about something or afraid about something, will that lead you to vote for me? And it's just strategy. I mean, we don't always know exactly how that's going to work, but it depends on the situation. But as persuadees, we need